I think we want to do two things. One is be really careful about judging people too quickly. We know what the preseason can tell us on that, which is not nothing, but it would be foolish to, make any long-term absolute decisions based on it. So I was reluctant about Penei Sewell before the draft, just because I've learned the hard way. Linemen who play high, which to put in a simple way for a fan is they don't bend their knees easily. And if you don't bend your knees easily, you lose some of your strength and you're more easily pushed around or moved by a defensive lineman. Most players in college that struggle with this part of the play, you would think that they could get this corrected when they get to the NFL level, but the truth is a relatively small percentage do. Now, maybe he'll be one of the small percentage. It's too early to tell, although so far hasn't looked great. But my nervousness about him before the draft, when others were on him, was the fact that he clearly played high, which in my mind meant that there was a relatively small chance he could overcome that and be successful at the NFL level. And this isn't about him. It's about both offensive and defensive linemen. You can think about it yourself. If an offensive and defensive line is getting too high, they're sapping their own strength, their own ability to just kind of set themselves and hold their ground reduces the longer they extend themselves. And it always seemed like something that an offensive line or a defensive line coach should be able to get a hold of people and fix. And it's surprisingly difficult. As I say, some players do overcome it, but more often than not, they don't. And even some that are very talented and big and strong, like he is. So I'm not questioning where he was picked. Personally, I have no trouble picking offensive linemen high, especially tackles. They're crucial players. They're hard to find, and especially on a quarterback's backside, they make extra difference. And good linemen make you able to run and pass. So I'm all for picking linemen and being aggressive in picking linemen. I just think in this particular case, I would have been very, very worried about how high he's playing. We'll see if over time he can fix it, but he's playing against the odds, counting on that.
I see it somewhat similar and a little bit different. I think one thing that's interesting to me in preseason where it applies to Sewell and in particular Jamar Chase, which is those were two players that opted out. And it's clear that there is definitely going to be a period of them trying to get back to gain speed. And it's apparent that these are both top 10 picks that are clearly struggling. And I think Sewell, to me, is a little bit of an older school, like right tackle, the more classic John Runyon, Eric Williams, the bigger point of attack, run-oriented offensive lineman. And the one question I had on him coming out was foot quickness. So a little bit different than Joe, but similar in terms of athletically, how well will he translate to the next level? And I understand why they took him. Their line's been a big problem in Detroit. Dan Campbell definitely has a real vision of how he wants his team to play. So I understand philosophically why they took him. But I do agree with Joe. If you can't bend your knees, and people that are waist benders, as they're known, like that is going to hurt him, and that's going to struggle with speed. And while he may be able to overpower people once he engages with them, as we know, this game's a passing league and pass protection is the most important thing for an offensive lineman, regardless if you're on the right side or the left side. This days of like a right tackle versus left tackle, like to me, that line's much more blurred than it was 5 or 10 years ago.